to the next slide. Oh, let me introduce myself. First of all, I forgot to do that. So my name is Betty. I own Inspired Leadership Coaching. I've been in the coaching and the HR industry for about 20 years now. What I love about my business is that I get to meet wonderful people like you and just raise our energy, raise our vision and commitment to what we do best. So my job is really to help people just achieve the best that they have in their life and the dreams that they have for their life. I've been in the HR field for about 20 years and mostly in leadership development and team development. And I also have led Indigenous representative workforce, total compensation, and change management. So yes, so that's me, and I'm really delighted and privileged to be meeting you today. Next slide, please.
I'm trying. Just give me a second here. It's not moving. There we go.
Yes, so I'll start by just acknowledging that we are on Territory 6, the land of the Métis people. I always love to do this as part of our Truth and Reconciliation commitment. And I just appreciate the owners of the land and how they have kept it and the fact that they have welcomed us to this wonderful, wonderful place. Next slide, please. So the objectives I was given for this workshop is to really help and start a conversation around creating your team and making it a cohesive team unit. I'm not quite sure how many employees. I think I should have asked each of you. I know some of you, it seemed like it ranges from 1 to 10. Is that a good bet? Yeah. So you still have people who are definitely relying on you. And for most of you, I did hear that you want to maintain your people. You want them to be safe. You want them to have employment. Devon said 3 plus me. Yes, thank you. So again, that's really, it's something that people are really thinking about. And I think Kelly said, I want us to come through this together. So I think just thinking about the people who work for us, people who come and patronize our businesses, I think is something that I heard from every one of you. So we're gonna talk about that. And also plan for your team. So the question about planning for your team is given the fluctuation of COVID, not quite sure, when we'll be able to open up completely. I think that is something that's an ambiguity and uncertainty that we'll have to live with. But I'm hoping that we'll be able to cover, provided a few ideas for us to kick off the conversation. Please, let's make this a conversation. I don't want this to be a presentation, me talking. Feel free to ask me a question as I go through, and hopefully we'll be able to manage it within the time that we have. Next one, please. So we did this already. So that's what you're doing when you're managing the computer issues. So we can go to the next slide, please. All right. So again, since I did not hear from you with exact questions that you had regarding what you wanted to hear today, I thought I would just start with this talent management process as a comprehensive process of really how we attract the people, how we plan for them, how we select them, how we develop them, how we retain them, and how we transition them. So when we're thinking about our employees and our team, we need to have the big picture in mind in terms of planning. Of course, you all have your business plan. And I'm sure you have your growth plans. Destiny said that she was just planning to move to expand to Moose Jaw. So those visions do not change. I mean, the situation that we're going with COVID might change, but I'm sure the plan for expansions, the plan for lean with the clubs, you have an idea of how many people you would need to serve your business. So again, you plan it based on your business plan and based on the big picture, but you're going to progress to it incrementally based, of course, on the economic picture. I heard from some of you saying that, meeting payroll is an issue, again, because you don't have the customers that you're anticipating to have. But today we are not going to really talk about that. We are going to talk about the people side of things, and you're going to hope, and we're not actually hope, we know that we are going to come through COVID and you're going to expand your business. So let's take on the optimistic side in terms of the growth side and see what we do. So planning, absolutely based on your business plan and based on your projections. And attracting is based on your brand. So when you're attracting the people that you want to work for you, tell me, what are some of the things that you look at based on your business and based on the mission of your business? What are some of the things that you think about when you're attracting the people to work for your business? Any one of you can chime in.
I think for me as an Indigenous woman and Cree and from this territory, my biggest mission and goal is to hire Indigenous women to train them up to become assets in the legal profession. Because in the legal profession, we're a minority and we're a minority with people of color. So that's my biggest mission. And those are my values, is to employ like-minded individuals and people from my territory to become assets in the legal profession.
Absolutely, Kelly. And again, you are trying to promote visible minorities or people who actually are underrepresented in that area. So you're targeting it to Indigenous people. Absolutely. And again, when you're targeting it, you want the people who have been trained as lawyers to join your business, right? And to represent.
And yeah, exactly. Yes. And I also have a student from an exchange program that's Nigerian. She's a Nigerian lawyer from Nigeria, but she has to go through the process here. So I'm giving her the opportunity to be able to participate in a law firm. So for me, it's not just Indigenous. Like my first priority is Indigenous, but then it opens it up to people of color, women, disability, all of that.
Absolutely, the equity groups. Okay, thank you. Let's hear from someone else. What are some of the things you're considering in terms of who you want to represent you in your business?
I always look for someone that has a positive attitude, because that's our environment in our salon. Someone that's going to have a positive attitude, that are responsible, reliable, and trustworthy. That's a big one.
Yeah.
I don't want to babysit anybody. And they have a passion for the beauty industry. So I know that they're going to love what they do.
Absolutely. So from those two examples, I guess what I wanted to highlight, Lynn, you got your mute off.
Well, yeah, I'm somewhat similar. I like, you don't want somebody who doesn't interact in a sports environment. You want someone who's happy and fun and wants to be there. And and I'm in this group because my prime employees are all Aboriginal. I am not, but I see in them the desire and the wanting to learn and to be paid and to increase the sport. So
absolutely. Yeah. So from all of you, I can hear that there's something you're looking for. You're looking for people who represent your brand, who represent your values. And that is so key. Just getting any warm body into your business is not the right thing. I'm sure you're very strategic. How is this person going to actually represent me when I'm not here? How do they represent my brand? How do they stand for what I believe in? So absolutely that. And again, selection goes with that. And that you put in the issues around, what education do they have? Do they need to have a basic kind of preparation? So all of that goes in selecting who you bring in. So getting the right people in the bus, absolutely, you're doing the right thing. How about developing? I did get a question around how much should you be contributing to professional development? Because again, when you bring in people, we are in a very dynamic environment. Things are changing on the fly. I think the skills that we all had 2 years ago, we all needed to change. I have had to change my digital skills this year because otherwise I wouldn't be able to do anything. So again, when it comes to developing, it's everybody's wish to grow. and learn. But the question of how much should you be spending, what is your budget, how much should you put into professional development really relies on the business that you're in, and whether they're full-time, whether they're part-time, or whether they have been with you for a long time. So it is not something that is cut in stone, but acknowledging that there's two levels of education that you need to prepare your people. So for instance, if safety training is mandatory, right? So that is not like PD. You consider that to be training that everyone has to have, because safety is something that we all care about. And again, it is legislated by OH&S. So when it comes to the training that is required for the job, it is the employer's role to pay for it. When it comes to going to conferences, to update your skills, that is where you can have a negotiation based on the individual that you're talking about. If this is somebody that you're thinking might take your business over someday and you want to develop them, then for sure, there can be that commitment to put a lot of money into ongoing professional development. Otherwise, it can be a cost shared endeavor. And based on, again, how long someone has been there. For instance, in my organization, we don't pay for professional development until you've worked for a year, until you've passed probation. We are not going to be paying for that until at least we know you've paid probation and you've stayed for a year and you look like someone who actually can grow with us. So the time you put into it, the thought you put into it, the amount you put into it, again, it all depends on the revenue that you are getting. So it's a negotiation when it comes to professional development that continues to develop someone in the long term. I don't know who asked that question, but does that address the question that you had?
Yeah, it was me that asked the question,
yeah.
And you answered it very well, thank you, and
yeah.
thought-provoking as well.
Yeah.
I guess the other part of that question would be, if in regards to professional development and it being a negotiation based on the amount of time and how you see them grow within your company.
Yeah.
Is it something that's truly on the onus of the employer to, I guess, to offer, but is it something that when you have, sorry, it's a little bit awkward, but when you have employees who don't know that they need to get that professional development, is it up to the employer to say, I'm taking your hand now and you are going to do this professional development?
That's a really good question, Lynn. And I'll talk about it in the next slide about how you have those conversations, how you identify what the growth is and how you can bring it up in terms of what is it that you have to gain? What are the skills that you need to gain in the next year? So that there's a way of bringing that up. And of course, you want to retain your people. I just want to finish through this. And retention is what we're talking about here. How do you identify the issues that actually make people want to stay with you? And we'll talk about that. And then as people are transitioning out of the business, we always want them to go with a good word. Again, it's a small community and we always want to, people to depart on good terms. So again, how you manage the whole process is key. And we'll go to the next slide so that we can flesh this out a little bit more. So we talked about the key considerations, your brand. Your brand is something that's very fragile and needs to be protected at all costs. So that means that we've talked about, you cannot afford to bring in anyone who doesn't represent your brand. Because truly, if you want people to come out of your business feeling empowered, feeling that they've been received good service, then the people you're attracting need to be able to deliver that. And like Destiny said, you don't want to babysit. People need to be responsible. They need to show up on time and do the things that they need to do. Your target market, again, is another thing. As you diversify in employment, we say that we want to hire the diversity of the market that we serve. So if you are in a predominantly indigenous market, absolutely, people need to relate. People can definitely understand what the customer needs because they share that cultural I guess, background. However, if you want to diversify and meet other and serve other markets, then, you know, like Kelly said, it's not just the indigenous person, but also another visible minority, I guess, you know, would be the person that you would put there. So again, you're thinking about your target market, and you're thinking about how does my company, how do the people that who work for me represent that? You know, Devon, you have a store and you have a front-facing store. I love your products.
Actually, I don't have a front-facing store
Oh,
anymore.
you don't?
It's just all
Okay.
e-commerce. We had
Oh,
to,
it's all e-commerce.
yeah.
I remember it when it was in Midtown.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We had to make that decision once COVID hit to
Yeah.
bring everything all online. And
Okay.
it's been a really good decision.
That's great. Excellent. Excellent. Again, I love the products. I want to wear them. If I see someone with my skin shade and my background wearing it and rocking it in a commercial, I will buy it. You know, again, it's about trying to diversify and trying to bring as many voices and as many faces who can represent that based on the market that you want to attract, right? A clear job description. And I know sometimes as a small business, we don't have time for that, but clarity is key. People need to know exactly what you're hiring them for. And sometimes I know that when we're hiring, it might feel expedient to just agree on some things, but a written job description for everybody that works for you is critical. It's because they know the scope of what they can do. You're going to hold them accountable based on the things on the job description. It doesn't mean that it has to restrict you, but it is the baseline. It doesn't mean that you have to be boxed by that job description, but at least as a baseline. When everything else is unclear, we can go, okay, what is it that we discussed? What are your accountabilities? This is what I expected you to do. And then it becomes the basis for having other conversations as well. You know, if for instance, Lynn, you have someone who needs to also have some security background, but they show up with lots of customer service, but eventually you think that they would want to have some security background, then that can be the basis of, I know you don't have this right now, but then that will be something that I'll expect you to develop within 3 years, right? So those things should be set. The job description in terms of the accountabilities, the education, and the experience should be something that is your template. It is your go-to to have all conversations around development, around performance. If someone is not doing what they are supposed to do, basically, you can go back and just say, you know, this is what we agreed your accountabilities are. So again, having a clear job description is key for any employer. That also forms another key consideration is orientation. That's one of the things that I find that we in the business and in the fast pace of our time, we might overlook. But orientation and getting and being very directive around this is what I expect. And as women, I find sometimes we are very kind and we assume someone can come and, you know, impress us, and we think, oh my gosh, they know everything. But then we might just lose our guard to actually see what they are doing during the orientation and be very intentional and direct in terms of how we expect them to behave. That is the time when you shape the person according to your culture. So for instance, if you say, this is how I expect everyone in my business to acknowledge people when they come in. They need to look at them, they need to make eye contact, smile, and welcome them. So at that time, I know it feels like you're being like a teacher, but orientation is key. You have to let people know exactly what you expect. Because again, you're trying to protect your brand. And that orientation period, you might decide however it takes, whether it's 2 weeks or whether it's a month, it depends on the position. But that's a time when you're trying to really be supportive, be directive, let someone know exactly what you expect so that there is no kind of confusion at the end.
I find that the orientation side of things is the hardest part for me because I get so busy, and then it's hard. I know I I need to show all of my new staff coming on exactly how to do things and kind of what I expect, but sometimes I just get pulled away. And so for me, I think like it ends up taking a lot longer to show them each aspect of the job, and I have to do it step by step. And it's not just like, okay, this whole week I'm teaching you. It's more like bit by
that's
bit.
fine. That's fine, Devon, as long as you have a plan. The question is that you have a plan. You're not going to overlook any aspect of your orientation. It might not just take a week because of just the operations. That's you have to live in reality, but do not overlook any of the areas. Do not overlook and assume that they know or they will know. The other thing is, if you have other employees, the other employees might be doing it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And if you rely on orientation from them, they might actually just integrate and show them the wrong way of doing things. So you want to make sure you're the one who is shepherding that person and let them identify what's actually not being done right. And then there can be an opportunity to make those improvements.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yes, I actually found that in the past. So when I had a store, I felt like a lot of times when I would leave the orientation up to other employees, things weren't being done right. So I'd have to go in and make corrections all the time.
Yes.
And so now I feel like it's easier to take the onus on myself to do the orientating.
Absolutely.
Except for things where I know I can trust that this person is doing things right and they will show how to do things properly.
Absolutely. You have to shepherd that or have someone you trust completely, someone who definitely has your standards and your values doing it. Because as you said, Devon, sometimes you really discover what's not actually happening. You know, people have made workarounds around a process. And then ongoing coaching conversation, you know, make it a point every week to ask someone, how are things going? How are things going? That's just a question you need to start. How are things going? Because, I mean, things may be going well for them at work, but they may not be going well for them at home. So you will always want to be in touch with your people. Again, we are all people and we bring ourselves to work. So just make it a point to just ask, how are you? What can I do to support you? So this is not a performance conversation. It is just a question, just an ongoing coaching to say, you know, is there anything that you're having trouble with? Is there anything that I can do to support you? And it doesn't have to take long, but I'd rather you have those weekly touch points than figure out something that's completely gone down the drain a month after, right? So it is worth taking time. Yeah.
I think it's a really important one because I like maybe like a month and a half ago, we're all together and I just like asked my staff like how they're doing at home. And every single one of them broke down crying.
Yes.
You know, they try to stay so positive at work, but I didn't realize that, this COVID is hitting all of them hard.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, especially these times, it is the mental health is a risk. Everybody, including mine. And mental health, we all have mental health issues. You know, it's always on a continuum. We really need to take care of each other so that we do not hit the point where we are breaking down, right? So a timely question, how are you doing? You know, from sincere, caring person can really make someone like what you did there, Destiny. You know, it just brings it out and then the person is able to deal with it and it's not hidden.
I think it brought us more closer together, just having that conversation.
Absolutely. That is so critical now. So critical now. So the next thing is performance management and feedback. And performance management, we all have to do it. I know sometimes we fire people before we tell them what they're not doing well, but it's good to always let them know what they're not doing well relative to what we hired them for. And performance feedback doesn't have to be intimidating. Feedback could be, I noticed when the client came or whatever, I noticed. It's always I noticed. And this is what I expect next time. So again, you're making sure that you're providing the feedback in a timely way. Don't pack it and put it, you know, give them when you're giving them their paycheck. It's when it happens, that's when you give that feedback. And again, it's based on performance. They know what they're supposed to do, and people already know if they miss the mark. But if we hold back from providing that feedback, then we're also not serving ourselves well. Does that make sense? Okay, let's go to the next one, Kara. So here, I just thought about, when we're thinking about how do you create a cohesive unit, and Gallup has 12 questions that any leader needs to be asking themselves all the time. Because when you think about employee engagement or loyalty or creating a good team, these are the things that people are thinking about. So we've talked about the job description. Do people know what is expected of them at work? Don't let it be ambiguous. Make it very clear. I need to know what's expected of me at work. Do people have the materials and equipment to do their jobs right? So when you think about your business, what are some of the core materials and equipment everyone has to have? Just one, for instance.
Like, are you saying like in my job it'd be scissors?
Yeah. So you need to, everyone has to have a pair of scissors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a brush.
Yes.
And some combs.
Yes.
And disinfectant.
Yes, that's a big one right now. Yeah.
I go to the salon a lot, so I know all these things. So again, that is your job, to make sure people have the materials and equipment to do their job, right? Because if they don't have the right scissors and they don't cut people's hair right, then it's your business that's being affected. Mm-hmm. At work, do I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day? This is premised on the fact that everyone has strengths. And there's some people who are fantastic in some things and they have just amazing strengths. And we notice that because of the way they just do things so effortlessly. So as you get to know your people, they might actually do some things really well that are outside their job description. Give them more opportunities to do that. If they like talking to people and that really jazzes them up, give them 5 minutes, to do that. People need to really there's something that energizes them. Give them the opportunity to do that every day. And in the last 7 days, have I been recognized for doing a good job? That just goes to say, you know what, Lane, if you go around and you see someone doing a good job, just say, hey, that was awesome. Again, that really fuels people up. They need to be told constantly that they're doing a great job. If they are, don't flatter, but if they are, people really need that feedback.
That was, sorry, one of the things that we had in our meeting, they said, don't do so much critical. They're like, we really like that you are positive and tell us that, thank you for taking out the garbage, or thank you for doing the dishes, or instead of saying, you know what, can you please take out the garbage?
Yes. Thank you. That is awesome, because there's a rule that says people can only take criticism when they have had about 3 to 4 thank yous. Then they can take the criticism. So you always have to make sure you're managing that balance and ratio, and the example you give there is awesome. My supervisor or someone seems to care about me as a person. And the example you give there, Destiny, is great. Again, they were able to share because they thought you cared enough to ask, right? That is key. There's someone who encourages my development, and that goes back to your question, Lynn, about developing. It's really an open conversation. You can ask someone, what are the things that you think you're struggling in? Where are the things that you need to grow? And then you can determine, how that happens. But it's always about trying to develop the person and to help them grow. At my work, my opinions seem to count. Again, I'm sure you all know from experience that there's so many ideas you can get from your team. So make sure you're getting all those ideas. They'll give you ideas about marketing, about business, about everything. So make sure you're gathering those ideas from them, right? And when you implement something from the idea, let them know, this was really awesome. Because people want to feel acknowledged for that. In the last 6 months, someone at work has talked to me about my progress, and that has to do with performance management. And I've had opportunities to learn and grow. And some of these opportunities, like bringing in a speaker, and nowadays there's so much on the webinars that at lunchtime you can all take, and have a learning opportunity. There's so much team development that you can do, from webinars. So take advantage of that because again, people want to be in an environment where they're learning and growing, especially in the business that they're in. And we all know that business is cutting edge. You always have to be in the cutting edge, right? And for that, we always have to keep learning and growing. Is that checklist make sense to you?
Yes.
Yeah. So if there's anything you can take away, and this is the ways that best managers do it, if you're taking care of these 12 things, you'll be a wonderful manager and a leader in your company. Next. So in terms of teams, we all know that when you put two or three or four or five people together, there's bound to be some conflict, right? We are all human systems and everyone brings, their dynamics to the table. So this is it's a model that I love because it talks about the things that you need to take care of. It's from Patrick Lencioni. And the pyramid starts at the bottom. Trust is what makes everything work, right? Without trust, you're not going to be able to get results. So in your mind, how do you develop trust with your people? What are some of the things you do to develop trust?
If there's a conflict, this was what I said when I first hired them, that if there's any conflict, there's no talking. So I will sit them down all together, because we had an incident where she said this and she said that.
Yeah.
So I sat them down and I said, what did I say?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that it was just like a learning experience for everyone, that I didn't say that, and you can tell me that in front of face, about each other. So I did that like 2 times, and then I don't know, I just think that really worked. And if I did make something, I say, I'm sorry. Yes. That was my fault.
Absolutely.
I think that goes a long way, and I think that just shows everyone else to do the same thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Again, making sure that there's no gossip.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about things above board. There's nothing, because if you encourage people coming to tell you things behind their back, I've had so many things as managers, people are always coming after the meeting to tell you what they should have said at the meeting. No, we are going to have the meeting and we're going to talk about it where everybody can hear. Good examples, Destiny. How about you, Devon?
I can't really think of anything right now.
How you build trust with your people?
Oh, okay. How we build trust. I feel like just open conversations.
Yeah.
We're all I used to have like sit down team meetings, and I think I need to implement that again, where we kind of all go around, and because we're in a small space, so everything that we talk about, everybody hears. So there's actually no talking about each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it actually completely changed since the last, I had a bunch of HR problems last year, and it was because of those like closed door conversations about specific people and like the issues that were happening at the time. And things just didn't work out. And I think it's because I just didn't have the right people in, or the right person in.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Lynn?
Yeah, this is a bit of a problem in the boxing side, in that the coaches who I have feel that because I'm not a boxing person, that I don't know anything about boxing, but I know a tremendous amount about coaching.
Yeah.
They have not come to understand that I do know something about the coaching part. So it's a bit of a little dance that we're doing.
Yeah.
And this is why I asked about the professional development, is because I now have them doing professional development, because they only run on what they learned from when they were athletes, which is decades
a long time
ago.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's changing, and it changes every single day in coaching. And so now they are doing professional development courses to help them understand what they thought they knew.
Yeah.
But then again, see, that's my assumption, that, I know everything and they know nothing. They do know things, and it's me acknowledging that, yes,
Yeah.
I do not know anything about boxing.
Yes.
Teach me.
Yes.
And I will teach you about coaching.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what you said about vulnerability. So you're not going there saying, I know about, no, I don't. Actually, I don't know about boxing. I know a lot about coaching and I know a lot about business, you know?
Right.
So again, being very vulnerable with what you don't know and acknowledging that, that's a way of building trust because there's nothing that, that they have on you now. How about you, Kelly? How about you, Kelly?
For me, I think the biggest thing with building trust is I ensure that I communicate well with my bookkeeper. That's my one employee that I've trained up. I've invested money into her to give her a skill set that she requires. So communication is the biggest thing, and how I do that is through emails, and we talk. And when we're in the office, we have a good vibe because we deal with heavy things in my office sometimes. So what I like to do is we play some music and then we joke and we laugh. We laugh through it. So definitely the environment has to stay light when we're working because that's just how I work.
Yeah.
And so that's how I do that, is just showing her, and being a role model too is like I role model my behavior to her.
Yes. Yes.
So she can trust me, right? So if I'm getting upset or if I'm getting angry or mad, I do my best not to do that in front of her. Like if it's something else work related, like I'll just I know how to control that I need to lead for her. So that's the biggest thing that I do right now.
Okay, well, again, being able to role model, I'm going to pick on that one because I guess you're trying to exemplify the behavior that you expect, right? So building trust is key, is foundational. And as you've all shared, we have all different ways of building it, but people need to know you are the real deal. People need to know that they can trust you, you know, because when you have that trust, you're able to have conflicts because conflict is a human phenomenon. You cannot avoid conflict altogether, but you can have conflict knowing that this person has my back. You know, this person will be able to tell me the things I don't want to hear, but I know that they're good for me. Right? So that is a base where otherwise, if you have conflict without trust, then it becomes very toxic, right? Because then people don't trust you have their back and you know what that happens. So trust is so key to be able to have that conflict, and do not avoid conflict because if Jamie, welcome. I did not notice because my gallery here is not complete, but welcome, Jamie. So conflict is so key and healthy, and sometimes it might transform your business if it is handled in a trustworthy environment, right? And then because you have hashing things out, you might be able to get commitment. Because then if people don't hash things out and things don't make sense for them in their head, they might not be able to commit and buy into your direction. But when you are engaging them and when you're saying, tell me what doesn't make sense in this, you know, tell me how else we should be doing it. If you have a conflict, let's just have a conversation because we want what's best for our clients and our customers. Then you'll really get good buy-in. You know, people will be committed and then they'll be accountable for bringing in the results. And then once you get accountability, of course, you get the results that you're asking. You'll get the money, you'll get the financial targets that you have committed to. So this, if anything, for you to remember is every one of you talked about the attributes of trust and really being the real deal, and people knowing that you have their back, them being able to come to you, them knowing that you care about them as a person. Then if there are issues to be dealt with, they do not become toxic, they become productive. And then people get more invested in it, and then they are more able to bring it and to bring the financial targets that you need. So I like frameworks because when I see something, I can remember so many other things. So I hope this will serve you, and also to remember that you can always build it. You know, it's always a building thing. You never arrive. Every day is an opportunity to build more trust. Every day is an opportunity to invite a conflict that has been hidden under the rug and talk about it. Every day could be an opportunity for people to buy in more and be more accountable and produce results. So again, it's an ongoing thing. You never arrive. It's something that you always have to cultivate. Any questions? Okay, let's go to the next one. So I wanted to put this model together because I think majority of you mentioned that you have, more than one employee. And this is a team development process that always happens. Sometimes you never know, what's going on, but being able to understand what might be going on might clue you in. So when people come together, they have the forming, they're nice to each other, everybody's polite, nobody's raising any contentious issues, you're kind of forming a team. But once you start to hang out for a while, you start to storm. That's when the power struggles come. You have team members, some of them are, want to dominate others, there are dynamics that start. So the niceness at the beginning is followed by the storming, where in every team, someone wants to become the informal leader. Right? I don't know if you've noticed that, but there's someone who wants to be the boss of the boss. They're just human dynamics, right? Based on our personalities. So you see all these things playing out. Again, if you know that that's the way the team develops, then you're not scared because you know that you can coach them out of this storming period to norm. And what norming is about is for you as a team to talk about what are your values? How are you going to treat each other? So it's an opportunity to start norming, and to start discussing as a team. No, this is not on. How do we want to treat each other? How do we want to bring up issues, when we have issues? How do we want to give each other feedback when we've seen someone do wrong? So these are the times you start to, norm by bringing everybody in. When you hired them, you had your own norms. But now as a team, you have to co-create those, right? And again, this is an opportunity to solidify and also hear what other people are bringing and for everybody now to build the culture together. And once you do that, then you start performing. You see that, people just know what needs to be done. It's like they finish your sentences. They just know I know what Kelly would do if she was here. This is what Jamie would do if they were here. They are performing and things are just what we say, it's a well-oiled machine. But once you introduce someone else, so let's say someone leaves and you hire someone back on, you might go through the same process again because there's a new dynamic on the team, right? There'll be niceness, and then there'll be some power struggles, and then there'll be an opportunity. So again, this is a process that keeps going, but I just wanted to bring it up to your attention so that when you see this going, you can clue into, okay, what's going on here as a team, and what do I need to do to move them to the next level? So once this is a place where things are very stormy, but again, if you see that they're probably going through the storming stage, this is an opportunity as a leader to get them to the norming stage so that they can transition and actually become stronger. So again, it's just being able to be attuned to the team dynamics. Has anyone experienced this phenomena?
Yes. Mm-hmm. I feel like just recently.
Oh yeah?
I like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's called the Tuckman's model for team development. It's a phenomena that we just need to know. It will happen, but once we know, then we are not wondering, oh my God, what's going on?
And I think too, like I've seen this happen like many times, yeah. And it's because our team is always changing. And yes. Right now, like with the 2 new workers we brought on, right now we're still in the forming stage. Yes. But this is a good opportunity to see how we can set together the norms together. Yes. Yeah. So far, we have not been in the storming stage, but I have been in the storming stage several times. Yeah. But sometimes I felt like in the last, when I only had 2 people, we didn't really get to a storming stage.
Yeah,
it was just like forming to norming.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. But I have been in that storming stage several times before with previous teams that I've had.
Yeah.
And my teams are always changing.
Yeah. And Jamie also says that I've seen this also, I've been involved with this model, and this is a model we learn about in a leadership PD course I completed. Absolutely, Jamie. This is a very popular model, and it's good to just have it in the back of your mind so that you don't think that things are falling apart. No, it's just human beings being human beings, and they'll come through the other end if you know how to get them there. Let's go through the next one. Jamie says, I've recently started a new full-time job and would be interested if it occurs in my new. Oh yeah, that would be interesting, Jamie. Just keep your eyes open. So we talked about mental health, and this is something that we all experience. I think we're trying to demystify the whole area of mental health because there's mental health and mental illness are 2 different things, right? And one of the things that I'm really trying to promote is the fact that 1 in 5 people have mental health issues. And the reason why they're so prevalent is because people are not talking about it. So if someone has diabetes or someone has a heart disease, we don't have an issue with them sharing. We should see mental illness the same way and be as empathetic about it, because people don't choose to have mental health. It's just a state. However, in the days that we are living in, and since we wanted to be resilient, this is a model that I find extremely useful to talk about these issues. All of us are in a continuum between healthy and ill. We are all on a continuum. So when we are healthy, we have normal fluctuations in mood, our sleep patterns are fine, we are physically well, we are socially active, and things are going well. We know when we are in our groove, right? But since this COVID started, I really have to fight to be there. You know, most of the times I'm reacting, because after I was sleeping, there's decreased social activity, and I am really energized by being around people. And now I'm not. I'm in my 2x2 room, right? With my computer every day. So I really do have, try to be healthy. But then on the other hand, if I see myself moving into, the orange side, I have to do things that will help me get back to the green. So it is almost like an indicator in the car. When you see that you're kind of in the orange area and I need some more gas, that's the time I'll hit the gym. That's the time I'll go out for a walk. That's the time I will do whatever I need to do to be able to get back on the green. And when people are in the orange and red side, then they need some professional help. But the point of this is to ensure that we're having regular conversations with people and helping them move back to green. Because again, we are all on a continuum. If you haven't slept well for a whole week, then my weekend is sleeping, because I know sleep will restore me and I'll be back in the game. So this is a tool, and it's available from the Mental Health Commission of Canada, and I put it on my desk so that my staff can say, hey, today I'm just feeling like I'm in the Eurozone. Okay, let's talk about it. What do you need? Do you need to take some time off? What is it that you need? So just having these conversations and not making them, so touchy, because it's a human condition and we all go through that. I think will really help us become resilient. And on the other side, I just said some of the things that help people stay healthy and resilient is setting SMART goals. We've all talked about, the unpredictability of COVID and not being able to know where the payroll will come from and not being able to plan long-term. Just set SMART short-term goals, because if you feel overwhelmed, by not being able to do what you wanted to do because of the uncertainty, you can at least set short-term goals for what you can do this month. And that really helps with the forward momentum. And then visualizing positive outcomes. It's a way we train our brain to see the best of what is, to see opportunities where they're not. Deep breathing is fantastic. I do have an Apple Watch that actually reminds me to breathe, and I'm so happy for that. But if anyone has actually used that, when you breathe in maybe 3 deep breaths and you look at your what BPM, the heartbeat, it actually lowers. Breathing really helps lower the hearts per minute. So that's something that is very accessible to us if we can remember to keep breathing deeply, and positive talk, positive self-talk. I can do this. I've been through this before. I can do it. Again, these are small things that we can master to help us get through these tough times that you're going through. And also use that to coach your people. Use that to coach your people as well. Because, as Kelly said, we want to come through out of this together. And you are the leaders of your team. They are looking up to you, and you can help them have these conversations, and you can impart on them some of these practices to help them become more resilient. Any comments?
I was just going to say, one of the staff members, she does struggle with mental health, and I didn't notice it up until just recently. And I know that she's like flustered and she's more messy maybe.
Yeah.
And she's usually not. So like, instead of saying something to her, I've just been cleaning up her station for her when she's away.
Yeah.
And she just came to me yesterday and she like thanked me. She's like, I'm really sorry for being so messy. She's like, I just want to thank you because I know that you've been cleaning my station. So I think that just goes a long way, just doing something for them just to help them out.
Absolutely. That is so compassionate. Wow, that is amazing. Other examples?
I have one young man in particular who has mental issues and a physical injury on top of that, and he had to take a couple of months off. So instead of putting him on EI and you have to fill out all these forms and stuff, I did keep paying him. Not to the extent that he was when he was working, but I made sure that he was on payroll and that he was still getting a paycheck of some kind. That went a long way with him, because it meant to him that he was still a part of our group. He was thankful that he could have some money to buy groceries. That was it did mean a lot to him.
Absolutely. So let's take care of each other. Mental health is a big issue, especially with isolation, and as a business person myself, I mean, there are times when you're kind of hitting your head against the wall. Time to take care of yourself. This too shall pass. So just being mindful of that is key. Let's go to the next one. Well, Q&A. Well, how much time do we have left? Supposed to end at 10:30?
Yeah, 10:30. So
okay.
Less, maybe 5 minutes for questions. Or so.
Absolutely. And I'll be here much later because I definitely stole some of the time. I was late in coming in. So whoever wants to stay later and ask questions, I'm here. So
we're actually going to be continuing on this call.
With somebody else?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to be doing a roundtable for the group later. So we'll go for as maybe like 5 to 10 minutes just to see if there's any questions.
Yeah,
and then we'll have a break right after that.
Okay.